Now, I thought I would riff a little bit. This code is starting to move along to a point where I wouldn't put it up now, because even now you'll probably, if you watch along with me, and this will be a longer video, I probably won't make too many edits, and I'll try not to be too cute with it. If you want to skip around it, you may see the highlights, but I'm just going to play the thing. So let's start with restore timeline. I'm at the point in the code where I'm trying to write. Yes, I want to restore the timeline, like rebooting the game by hitting the restore timeline. I'm at the point where I'm getting bored with my own text, and so I'm trying to make some columns of alternate text that I will use to put in, simplify things so it fits. And we're starting here in period 3. You can see that I have my time bolt hole here, and arrow keys to move around the years. Use the arrow buttons to the left of this message to advance one period of the timeline, close the hint. Those will appear as I hit these arrow keys, and you can see my little map, patience map loading here. This is not going to be a fast playing game. It's going to be pretty methodical depending upon what system you have. It runs in Excel, so please don't waste your time at work playing some diversion on time travel. And I just went to the Sea Peoples here. Enforce monitor leads quite often to the recruitment of agents. Close the hint box to find the enforce button. Well, there it is. Let's try that first. So here comes my first roll of the game. And I rolled, wow, pathetic, a 3, a 2, and a 1. Now, if there are more 1s added up to beat the 2s and the 3s here, for instance, if I had 4 1s and a 3, the net result would be a 1 result, and that's a terrible result. Now, for every 5 and 6 roughly that I roll here, I may be able to reduce steps in the game. And depending upon whether I have other agents, they will add extra dice. Relics will add bonuses to my dice roll, and we'll see a little bit of that as I develop any talent. But here, this initial 3 is probably just messing up the timeline behind, and it says your efforts are inconclusive. Enemy time. Excuse me that this is going to be so small in the YouTube video. You're only going to see the major changes here. You won't be able to read along with me. Your efforts are inconclusive. Enemy time travelers were fought, and the outcome was mixed. Advise we change periods and return later. A time traveler, Agent Thucydides, appears to be active. Finding the agent may not be enough. If possible, murder the intruder at a John bar hinge. Now, the whole game is based on these John bar hinges that are created, and we have 3 of them right here in the game. I'm not demonstrating the game here. I'm playing the game here. So I'm not going to just jump right in and create John bar hinges, because I know I don't want to wreck the timeline until I get myself a little force that will first help me in action here. So I'm just going to go back to a second roll of enforcing and training here. And you see the little blick, 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 blick light. Metatron, the voice, the AI mastermind with the anomaly, wants to speak with you. Now that's an interesting one. It's giving me a quest in the game, and there's probably, I've been playing this thing for several hours, maybe 10 hours accumulative, and I don't see that often enough. So I need to make that probability that Metatron, the voice of God, the AI anomaly, will speak to you and give you missions needs to increase more. But right now, I would probably not click a button as a sensible person and pray to Metatron and get myself a quest here, because I don't have a team that would be able to effectively do that. And the Metatron quests tend to distort the timeline. And right now I have a historic timeline where many of the periods only have minor alterations or have almost no alterations to time, so it's a lot easier. The steps are lower. But looking back at this last op, I got a 1, 1, and a 4. The 4 is the majority of the dice, because a 4 beats 2 1s. If you don't follow along the mechanics, don't worry about it. You'll pick them up intuitively as you play them. But the 4 made me blip, and your efforts are inconclusive, and there was a glitch in the time space, and there was a blip in the timeline which places your team in a different area. We ran into a period. Now that's probably an error that I need to fix. We're not in period 36. We're in period 35. Probably giving me the slot of the code here that I'm in rather than that. I'll have to make a mental note, because again, I'm not trying to fix code as I give you a rift. I can click on the Saxons here, and it'll tell me the Saxons are the troublemakers, the rivals in the period. These people or country are appropriate to the time period. The Normans here are appropriate. And I can also click on the little battle here. It tells me this battle is a significant site of the Battle of Hastings. The battlefield is appropriate to the time period. That's all nice just to get you an idea of what's going on in the period. The John Bar hinges here are safeguard the Norse wildcard Leif Erikson, or assassinate the Saxon General Harold, or kill who you must, but mostly use advanced tech to eliminate the Norman political infighting. I can also watch video blogs of people in the age to follow along. Even a fool might stumble on the conspiratorial truth. That's tinkering to try to get arsenal relics. Or I can enforce and train and try to develop other people. This is 3-step with 3 steps to enforce. Still not terrible for me, since I'm rolling maybe 3 dice. I start by rolling a maximum of 3 dice, and as I acquire apex rank here by getting actual results that are successful, I will go up in rank and roll more dice on my own. As I add agents, my own dice drop a little bit, but the agents add their own dice. So I could play alone and never recruit an agent. The problem with that is I don't really have the agents to soak off, because when bad things happen in the game, there's a good probability they're going to happen to other agents or your relics. But if you don't have agents and relics, all those bad things are going to happen right to you as the time traveler, the leader of this party of misfits. Here, let me enforce and train here and see if I can do something. That little blipping is telling me more than likely I blipped to a different time zone again. So if we look over at our dice, see if I can confirm this. And is the best die I have is 4? Stinking Microsoft code. Best die I have is a pair of 4s. Now 2 4s meaning 8 is going to be higher than that 3. So I'm going to end up with result 4, which once again is going to tell me that I have blipped in time space, and my actions, none of those dice are high enough that I did anything to reduce it. Where did I go to? Well, it's the American Civil War, United States and the rebels, and those are appropriate. I think we get the Battle of Gettysburg here, and we do. And do I want to try to recruit an agent here? See, the enforce and train, the steps went up to 3. If I go back in time a little bit, I can maybe get to a point where they're just 2. And depending upon where you recruit agents in the timeline, their temperament will change. All in code, nothing you need to worry about. But the more agents you have, the more they're interacting with one another behind the scenes, hating one another, liking one another, and that too will affect your ability as a team. Entropy, bad. I've now got some of this stuff color-coded to tell you when things are when the period itself, the era, is not something you really want. Now, from a time perspective, you can even play Time Cop here. I like to just play Time Bandit here. I'm just trying to develop the best party of mercenaries I can and pillage the timeline. But if you want to play Time Cop and try to correct all these little inconsistencies, or if you want to be some sort of guiding force and try to put more eras of prosperity, enlightenment, and reach certain nirvana points in the timeline faster, that's certainly another way to play. You could try to collect the different lost elements of the time travel anomaly, and those definitely increase your dice roll if you can move those to period 100. So if I could enter, for instance, period 13 here, I would be able to find the missing part of the time anomaly, a station in orbit around the planet Mercury, hidden by the brightness of the sun's corona. And this part is, if I go up a little bit, it says that this part is missing part of the time travel, and this part is, I'm just trying to see which part it is. Usually it tells you somewhere in here. Ah, here it is. This is component beta of the murder module. Well, murder module. So if I can get the murder module onto the main time travel anomaly, it's going to help me do things like assassinate. And in this case, this era has force and find and entice. Doesn't really have a whole lot of assassinate. Let me get out of the conquistador era. I've played enough Cutlass in my life. Oh, blasphemy. No, I have not, but that's not this game. And I move down to the next era. Now, these are all the historic timelines, so I should be able to remember which comes next. Scots and Tudors, yeah. I don't want to mess with Queen Elizabeth or King Henry. I could, but did I get... still enforces 3 there. I'm trying to get maybe an enforce of 2, something that I'm, less dice roll I need to be successful on. And you can see how long it takes to load some of these. It's constantly giving me hints now, which means these dice are this text box is blocking my actual actions in the game. That one says go back to period 3 as you like and find your base of operations, your bat cave, kinda. You can click on many of the pictures in the game. Relics empower you to you and your agents. Once you cycle through all the hints, you start to just get random hits every once in a while. You won't get them continuously spamming you. And so let's see where we're at. Cartography of the Dark Ages, 3 steps still, and oppression. I don't really want to be in an oppressive era when I'm changing it. I would want to go back an era and change the previous era so that the next era may not be oppression. Well, I'll show some of that. I probably play for about an hour here just riffing along. Romans, 2 steps in the Romans. Okay, let's see if we can find if I can reduce the 2 steps to 1 step and then 0 step. Give me some high rolls here. See that little blipping light here? That means I probably rolled another low of a 4. And these are supposedly just, you've seen I've rolled about 10 dice already and not a single 6 has come up in 10 dice. Don't bet on what I roll in Vegas. Triple ones. Okay, sort of wiped out here pretty badly. That 1 can shatter the timeline, but at least I'm only doing something minor here. Let's see what it says. It says ambush was if they knew we were coming. The other guys with the plasma weapons, that's who. The blip and then the timeline blipped, so it's ugly. We went back to the Iranians, the Babylonian period. Not a bad time. The enforcer steps here, since we're almost very close, as 1. It's probably just a tad too far from Egypt to be protected. If you get actions, let me go back, maybe 1 more action to the New Kingdom and give myself a little bit of a break here. When you got an initial player with no agents and no arsenal of relics, you probably want to stay around Egypt for the most part until you build up a team. And this one, it's closer. It's closer. That's the Battle of Kadesh, which probably should be a little bit lower. But you got to forgive me. It is a rather abstract map of the world. And the Battle of Kadesh, and I'm very close to the New Kingdom. I'm going to try it here, okay? And it's only 1 step for enforce. See if I can get my 6 now. Click on the dice, and besides a few clerical errors, text errors, it's running pretty well. I'm amused by it. And a 5. Nope, pair of 4s. Okay, pair of 4s. We blip back again. Is this thing only going to roll 4s for me? Well, at least I'm back in my starting position here, and I'm gonna hit on that force. And I rolled a 2 and a 1. Wow! I had to participate in an orgy. A sexual prowess and deviance had to be proven, and I was unable to do that. Well, I am old. And so let's see what we can do here instead. Again, we're trying to ponder the unknown. A dimension is a constant, not a multitude. There is only one timeline. There is no multiverse. With luck, you are the only travelers for now. As time changes, everything forward morphs. What was once undone could come back. Does memory survive these deaths? Hope you never need to find that out. The game... Time travel is going to mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. I know I get in arguments with my design partner over this, Conrad. And in this case, the timeline is Earth-focused. It's something about the anomaly. It's only going to affect Earth and Earth's history. And also, it's a linear timeline. So I'm not creating multiverses here. Although, am I? There's certain parts of the timeline that seem like you're in a multiverse, but what that is mostly enemies working behind the scene. I'm still in era of the first kings, which is good. Period 3. I'm going to hit that in force again. Double 3s. That's pathetic. Metatron, the mastermind anomaly, is disappointing. Dings my rank. Well, it's 0 anyway, so I'd be disappointed too, Metatron. I'm sorry I'm failing you so much. Can we just sort of spam this? Where the heck are we now? This has got to be some of the worst dice rolling I've ever seen in my life, but hey, I'm still playing. I haven't gone game over yet. If I get a shattered timeline, I could game over. And this time, all the way at the Space and Arms Race, Kennedy. I'm just going to go for it here. I'm feeling a little bit reckless. One click during the Kennedy administration, NATO versus Warsaw Prague. Do I see this as Babylonia? I think I'm back at. Do I recognize it correctly? I'm at. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Double 4. Back to the Babylonians, and I will try to enforce in the Babylonians. A single 2. Julia Argar was further traumatized. Wait, look at that. I picked up, because I was blipping around too much, I picked up a straggler, a stowaway into my process. Let's read about her. So in this era, Julia here, in period 11, the time of the Babylonians, the sexual mores of the area discriminate against her. She's going to be less than effective. And this is my team leader. She's going to hold that team for life. There's no way to move this player into this slot. I could write code to do that, but it just added over complexity. She was recruited specifically for this ability. Actually, she wasn't. She was a stowaway and moved into that slot. If I recruit somebody for a slot, they're going to be a little bit better than some stowaway that I pick up. But stowaways still can help the whole, let me do enforce. Come on, Julia, let's see if you participate here. See what happens with her. I rolled 1 die, so I'm thinking Julia didn't do much. Julia is afraid of heights, and this mission included high altitudes. Let's click on her and see how bad she actually is. She is... does she have substance abuse? Here's her flaws. She's sickly. She has anxiety. She has arachnophobia. She has a fear of dogs. She's a lone wolf and tends to go off on her own. She has poor hygiene. She's near death. And also, what is her prejudices? Well, that's at least she doesn't hate people of the opposite sex or worry about people that are better than her. But a whole slew of flaws from this asset. Now, I can hang on to her and just let her fill up with flaws, or I can just, like she aged too. She's not long for this time-traveling game. I could terminate her right now, but I'm going to keep her around just as a soak-off for the moment. I'm still trying to enforce in the Babylonians. A double 5. That may actually give me something here. Op in period 11. I rolled 2 dice at a bonus of 1, so both those 5 should reduce the outcome of, and now I'm no longer enforcing the timeline, I am recruiting from the timeline. Let me close the message here. I'm going to get rid of her. And, boop. I just terminated her with extreme prejudice. And now I'm going to recruit. Hopefully I'm going to get somebody from the Babylonian era into my first time slot as my new commander of my team. And looks like I did. Okay, so the eras created by the remaining Jonpar inches have changed radically. That may or may not help me. Should I demonstrate that? Well, I said I'm playing. I'm not really demonstrating. 6, 5, and 5. The dice are starting to change. I picked up Mortimer. Now, when I click on Mortimer, you can see some flashing. That's just an Excel artifact. Now, probably it won't happen since the previous image was not there anymore. This is your team, Mortimer, team leader, Mortimer Malcolm, holding a lifetime appointment. Time travelers have access to far future longevity drugs. See the button terminate below the picture. Death offers no take back. Well, you saw me use that on Julia. I'm a mean person. Now, he was recruited in the timeline. These boxes are tough to use. I apologize for that. He was born in the decay of the priest kings of Babylonian. These childhood memories are hard to suppress. He hates members of the Macedonian, or should say he hates members of the monotheistic Israelites. So if I ever get to era 6, period 6, forgive me, in period 6 where it's the Israelites, if I recruited an agent of the Israelites to work with my Babylonian here, the two would be water and oil. That would just lead to less dice and less successful ops. You need to be aware of who you're recruiting here, because the people will, even as they become more and more modern, they're going to remain people of their eras, and they're going to have certain biases and everything else. He's a deist. He thinks mankind will one day be divine. He was rescued following a mishap, so I picked him up. He was a minor historic figure at the time, and he's a couch potato who drinks and surfs the net and watches cats videos in his spare time, so he's not really applying himself toward getting more skills. He excels at negotiations as well as practice in his plasma weaponry. His mood is loyal, steadfast. His lifestyle, his prejudice is lifestyle. He hates agents that that think that that watching cat videos is a waste of time, and so he'll get in trouble if I recruit him. But Malcolm, you see, is blue here. The blue of his name means he's in good steadfast shape. This black of benign transformation as the actual era means it's sort of neutral, and we have our first person in the timeline here. Now we can tinker in this era. Let's tinker. And what does that little flashing light mean? It probably means we blip someplace else. Now, as you collect Arsenal of Relics, those slowly decay on you, and to a high degree, the timeline is trying to grab back its relatives, relics from you, its relatives from you. Boy, that was probably a Freudian slip, but at the same time, it's probably good. 3 4s. Boy, I can't roll dice worth a damn. Okay, and so let's in this era here, let's collect a second guy, and it's only 2 steps. Close the box, 2 and 2. Now we can recruit the guy with 2 more dice, good dice. And let's see if old Mortimer here. Looks like we recruited Quentin, and they're both healthy young guys. And I rolled 1 die. I should say I rolled 3 dice with a bonus of 1 and got 0 steps. So I'm not necessarily the first dice you see on the page here. My dice are mixed in with the other dice. So I did nothing. I'm bupkis. But Malcolm rolled 3 dice at a bonus of 2 because he is a skillful negotiator, and we are negotiating here to pick up another party member. And he rolled 3 dice, bonus of 2, and he had 3 successes here. That's probably why Quentin is now a member of the group. And then we go down. It gives us a little warning on the dice. The dice displayed are shown without any modifiers, meaning you may be better at reducing task steps than at first seen. And you can see that I rolled 1 6. And I rolled a couple of 2s, a couple of 3s, but the couple of 3s, if I rolled a third 3, the net result would have been result 3, which is not that good, but I would still reduce steps with my 5s and 6s, or for me, and 6s for the other guys, depending on their bonuses. And but the net result is just a 6, and so we found a good candidate. The good candidate is recruited, as our high die in this array is a 6. Again, mechanics, don't worry about it. Let's see if we can go ahead and tinker here. Holy Roman Empire and the Hungarians. All right, sure. Let's see if we can grab their relic. It'll take us 2 steps to grab the relic. You'll see that this task complete here. Look at that, the font changed on me. The task complete signals here under recruitment, and the button disappears, means that we've already recruited our 1 agent in this era. And let's see if we tinker here. Following divine intervention of the Metatron, Mortimer is now religiously devout. So he's talking to the AI, and it's convincing him to worship as a god. So Mortimer will be praying to the Metatron, or I should say Quentin. Was that Mortimer or Quentin? Check Mortimer, see if he became an arch conservative. Yeah, he became a conservative reactionary. So he's going insane slowly. Not to disparage religion, but he's talking to the AI anomaly, the time travel device itself, and treating it as a god. There's a lot of 5s here. Now, if I got lucky, a lot of those 5s actually reduce the steps. My relic action is just a 1. So I need to relic. Here it comes. Here's my relic recruit. Did I pick something up? I did. I grabbed Nero's fiddle from the timeline. There's about 200 of these that are just scattered throughout time, and a couple per era, I believe, is the baseline. And I rolled 4 dice with a bonus of 1. Quentin rolled 4 dice with a bonus of 2. And I should say Mortimer rolled 4 dice with a bonus of 2. Quentin rolled 4 dice with a bonus of 2. They generate a huge amount of steps. And how did I do as a player? Dun 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 dun. I rolled 2 dice with a bonus of 1, but I got 0 steps. But the kids with me, those nice high rolls, they were the ones who actually acquired this item. I can look it up. The fiddle is an instrument which appears unremarkable, but when played is said to bring doom to those about. Okay. And it will improve bodyguards, duties, murders, intrigues, etc. Now again, I do not get to assign Nero's fiddler to myself or the other agents. When we start an op, these guys may think they work for me, or I should say I might think that these guys work for me, but they're independent time travelers now. They realize that they could go off on their own. They understand the whole principle now. They could be wrecking time and becoming my enemy. And as I recruit them and train them and teach them the magic of time travel, they could leave me and go off on their own motives. But when we enter an op, this Nero fiddle may be in my hand, typically my hands, or it may be in one of the other guy's hands. And the other thing about the fiddle is it can sometimes cancel some of the bias and inherently make people that would be afraid of heights, but I'm carrying Nero's fiddle. I will ignore that. When I click on this, I can actually look, and it says red flag dilemma. So this device will instill courage against 2 different red flag dilemma. Now, I don't explicitly list those. That's way too much information to process. I don't want people sitting here with a scratch pad figuring out, oh, Nero's fiddle needs to be in the hand of Quentin, because they don't have that control anyway. But occasionally, the artifacts, and if I get more of them, will cancel out the flaws of the individuals, the phobias of the individuals. Got a lot of dice now. I could try changing the timeline, but I still think I should maybe go back. If I'm going to change the timeline, I want to change it someplace where it's going to help me as a player. Now, the first time I change this timeline, a lot's going to happen here. I got the Holy Roman Empire. I got the Roman Empire and the Goths, and you can see this. That's a button to change the timeline, but that changes that timeline to a oppression. I don't want to change the next era to oppression. Imperialism leading to the next one. Let's go back a little bit further. Let's see if we can find a good timeline to start recruiting. I could perhaps steal the relic from that era. And as you see, Nero's fiddle is not in the timeline of that area. And we're back to the Romans and the Gauls, and this is a good time. Should I recruit another agent? I already roll a lot of dice. A tinker is only 1. Step 1. Clean the mess, the detritus. Level an entire city region, then shift through the remains for the miracle find. All right, well, let's nuke a city from orbit, just not Rome. But, maybe Carthage. Here comes, I'm going to tinker here. And a lot of low rolls, but overall, Malcolm was traumatized on the mission. He picked up some more flaws. All my guys are slowly going insane. Time travel is not meant for human made. We finish with some lessons learned. The effort lacked due diligence. Enemies have unleashed enhanced English somewhere in the timeline. So they have trained mercenaries from the English period of the timeline and have enhanced them and taught them how to take over another part of the timeline. Those are my enemies. Since I'm playing more Time Bandit, que sera, sera. They don't bother me, I won't bother them. But somewhere in here, there's probably going to be enhanced enemies. Now, why did that happen? That happened because there's 1, 2, 3 3 dice on the play field, and 3 3 dice beat whatever else I got going here. It's better than the single 6. If I had 2 6s, that would be better, and they would be the superior thing. If I had 2 5s would be better than 3 3s. But again, those are the mechanics which you either will start to appreciate or not give a crap about, because you're rolling dice here. You're just going to have to, some of it's going to be luck. Playing with time is a lot of luck. All right, and so did I complete that? I am now on a relic hunt. I'm still trying to clean up the mess and blow up a city and then sift through the remains, or let my boys sift through the remains. Close. That looks like a damn fine roll. 665. So I picked up a second. Hey, look at that! Even in the Roman era, I've got Romulus's amulet and I got Nero's fiddle. So I got 2 agents and 2 relics, and I want to eliminate the civil strife of this era. I'm going to go back probably 2 more, if I remember from my design. But since so much changes by click, every time you click forward or backward, things are changing behind the scenes. You're not getting away with it. Macedonians Assassinids with an active guardian, that's probably a safe era. I believe the one before it is either Enlightenment or a Potent Idea. And those blue would help me protect myself when I advance John Bar hinges. Now, why do I want to advance John Bar hinge and change the eras to come? Why do I want to change history? Well, by changing history, I can increase the survivability of my relics, because the more mischief I create, the more the relics will stay with me. Maybe the gods or Metatron is torturing me here. Let me go close this hint box, and I could repair history here. I'm not the type of guy in this, since I'm playing like a Time Bandits type of role. I'm not interested in repairing history, but I could repair the inconsistencies here with the people and try to bring this back to a slightly easier method to interact with. There's no lost components, but that's a sub game. that I'm not playing at the moment. Active Guardian. I want to create a John Bar hinge. Let's create the C one. And I click on it. And I got a 2, a 2, and a 1, and a 1. Boy, Malcolm Mortimer is badly injured on the mission, but he may recover. You notice he got old. So we lost him for a little while, and he aged. And came back like Captain America here. And the op in period 20 needs all to be cordial, innocuous, and pleasant. Here's roughly what happened. You carried Romulus's amulet. Your actions generated a single die with a bonus of 1, and that effort was 0 steps. Mortimer McDowell, equipped with Nero's fiddle, agent contributed 3 dice at a bonus of 2. But with no steps, because look at those rolls. Even if you rolled 3 dice and added 2 to each of them, you got a 3, and a 1, and the net result of those 2 2s. That's probably why Mortimer got to the old injure 1 sub routine, and he ended up aging here. And what happened with Quentin? Quentin, come on. You're my gut here. Oh, a red flag, cracked teeth, bad breath, chain smoking, bulimic. Poor him. You'd think bulimic in the Roman era. Oh, I'm in the Macedonian era here. Okay, so he shut down. He shut down because we needed to be innoxious and pleasant. And Quentin has not overcome his era's lack of hygiene. Somebody get this kid a bath. Let me move to close this. And I was trying to get John Bar C. John Bar C did not drop any steps. Mortimer was injured by my action. Let me try this again. John Bar C. And Quentin Bancroft and Mortimer McDowell now share prejudice against people of different races. Well, isn't that sweet? I got 2 white guys that suddenly hate Asians and Africans. Well, they're humans, and they're being corrupted by timeline. I got a couple of 5s here. We reduced the steps, but still more needs to be accomplished. So we dropped the John Bar steps from 4 to 2. And you can look and see I'm carrying Romulus's amulet still, and Malcolm's carrying Nero's fiddle still. That can be somewhat random. And we close this. Now I could try to recruit a 3rd relic for Quentin, but for some reason we hate him. All right, double 5s got us the 2 drop. Let's see if we can do this again. And a whole bunch of 6s and 5s. That was really good. You can see my apex is increasing here as I roll dice that are successful. I'm gaining experience. These guys, as they roll dice that are successful, they're gaining experience, getting better at their jobs. And we move on to, do I want to make a benign transformation here after the fact? It's not a bad one. It's a black era. Let me see how that represents. How bad is Nero's fiddle? Nero's fiddle has only 2 ops left before it's going to fall apart and go back to the timeline. Romulus's amulet has 4 ops left before it falls apart. But if I click this, those can rejuvenate slightly. It's like adding some magic to the wand. What is it? Charges, I think Gygax called it. Well, here we go. Let's click that. All right, we hold our breath. People can die and get sucked into lost in space here. And where did I end up? What happened? So I added a benign transformation. I told the Macedonians with my John Bar hinge that you are going to convert into something that is not caused by major wars, not caused by sicknesses and plagues. We're just going to move the timeline, and it's focused someplace else. And we ended up in India. So we moved from the Macedonians over to India with that benign transformation. You can see benign transformation here. I can go back and I say, well, I don't want to be with the Indians. Well, why? It's, And you notice the 2 things showed up when I did that. When I changed the timeline, everything after that could be gone. There was American Civil War. There was the American Revolutionary War in our historic timeline. But now we have gone to, and I don't know how far I can go before I could hit a shattered timeline here. In fact, I do know how far I could go before I hit a shattered timeline here, because from the tactical briefing, I'm seeing that this was actually a stable timeline. That's pretty good. And a lot is going on here. Something nags at you, a question that has multiple correct answers. Humanity must have progressed, advanced in technology or psychic mindfulness to some point in the future to create the time machine. Then the timeline changed and brought about a constant series of corrections and uncorrections issued by Metatron. That's how you understand the anomaly. But here you find a foreign notion, a chaos that contradicts your reality, and it goes on and explains. So as you change the timeline, your fundamental knowledge of the timeline is changing. Was time travel created by aliens? Was time travel created by some sort of mystic fae or fairy creatures? Was timeline simple technology? Is this all just a artificial reality that we're lost in? And all of that is being driven. If you dive down into the narrative, there's a story that's being told. Whether you find that story fascinating or not is up to your own sensibilities. You can just sit here and play this game, click, 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 and watch everything happen. You notice because I have these two harms here, my potential team has dropped from 5 members to 3, and my arsenal relics have dropped from 6 to 4. So these harms are bad. What's the first harm? The timeline has 3 or more baneful entropy. Else, a sorceress fae make a choleric return from slumber somewhere in the timeline. So the fae are actually coming into the timeline. And what's this other one here? It says, the timeline has 3 or more baneful retroactions and regressions. Else, the Luddites and their brain-dead conspiracy spawns somewhere in the timeline. The human species will never be able to fully feed itself, never have a majority above 1 on the Maslow scale. Now, you can ask yourself, I started with a historic timeline that had, it had some problems in it. It had Romans, but the Romans didn't destroy everything. And it had American Civil War and had Kennedy's assassination. It was a historic timeline, as you and I would know as players. And I have changed it to a point where now it has fairies that are starting to come back and influence things. And it has a Luddite movement that's suppressing the technology as humanity goes along. That doesn't sound like I really made a good improvement here. I don't care for that. Let me go back one era here and into what was before this. I think I changed it from the Macedonians, didn't I? Yeah. I don't want Alexander to have a benign transformation. Let me see if I got some other options here. Now, these two have caused me less potential in my team. And I'm going to try John Bar Hinge B. So I already applied my machinations and advanced the tech on the Sassanids, and that's probably why I moved to the timeline and its focus moved eastward by me helping the Sassanids. So how about if I go in instead and endorse and foster the idyllic notion of monotheism and a unified dogma. So during the Macedonian period, I will be the Christ-like figure who will bring monotheism to the area. And here comes John Bar Hinge B. I'm clicking on it. I don't like the outcome of that. It's blinking on me. I'm blinky, blinky, blinky. And what is my dice, oh wise one? Come on, Mortimer. Come on, Quentin. Is that the best we can muster as a team? With 2 relics and 2 agents and my own dice rolls, I've gone all the way to 97, where a kleptocracy is at war with the cabal of Hypnos. Era 97. I probably don't even have that defined in the game here. I actually do. Discover a force for good, order. We are the Templars. Each time this period changes, disappears, and returns, the group's name will be different. We are Providence. As these knights saunter and parade about, masses of people kneel and ask for forgiveness from the terrible closeness of the terrible gods. You later see a warning sign on something dangerous yet to be prepared. The sign has a skull and crossbones. It's not painted, but it's an actual man. Wow. I blipped. I rolled that 4. That 4 has blipped the timeline. This was not something that shattered the timeline and created new events. This is part of my timeline. I'm going to go one more forward and prove that I think the next one after this probably is the time anomaly. I'm hoping there's not 3 or 4 other ones in there. And with the kleptocracy and the cabal of Hypnos will disappear. And yes, okay, so I got to 100. Here is my time anomaly. This is what I use to time travel. Actually, I tap into it, And the mechanics of that, who knows? Is it a machine? Is it a car you drive around? This is connected to my bolt hole in Egypt, and here comes my lost components. And so if I got this component, let's call it the alpha one. I won't click on it and waste your time. It would then, if I move that to period 100, it would now appear as an enhancement on my time anomaly. But this is different. See, normally the Cryonauts are fighting, I think it's the 7th day movement, but I have the enhanced Tamil dynasty. So evil has put an enhanced Tamil dynasty. It doesn't like that the Cryonauts usually win the war against the 7th day cult, and instead they've installed the enhanced Tamil to try to kill the Cryonauts. Those would be people like myself, and take over the time anomaly. Now, when I click on the Tamils, it says the enhanced Tamil dynasty are troublemakers, the rivals in the period. Not all rivals have the same influence on the dominant culture. The setting is hypothetical and historic conjecture. These people or countries should not occur in this time period. So someone behind the scene, or by my own mistakes, I've created the Tamil dynasty to appear almost at the end of time with the time anomaly. And it says that this here is pure whimsy, far afield from the accounts in my paper master encyclopedia of the timeline. And take a deep breath, a sigh of relief. No matter what came before, you've reached a satisfactory end. I could think that I'm still adventuring, I'm still stealing, I'm having all sorts of fun. My options are limited here. I can create John bar hinges in era 100 in era and period. They're actually two different things in the game. The era is the defining characteristic of the area, active guardian. The period is time guardian. I do conflate the things when I talk. You maybe have better discipline than me or not. I'm going to get out of here. I'm just going to go back through time and see what I have wrought, since I know that the timeline's not shattered. So by me using the arrow keys to move around, I won't hit a shattered timeline that'll really mess things up. It's like a gap, a space, a broken period. But I can go back through the kleptocracy against the cult of Hypnos, the cabal of Hypnos. I still have the Fae and the Luddites in here, and I want to get rid of those if I can. I have too many stagnations and too many, what did I say? I have too many entropies and too many retroactions. And the Pakistanis and the Indian culture are fighting a war over here in the Bangladesh annexation, and it's appropriate to the time period. This cultural shift that happened to create the Pakistani and the Indian subcontinent as a period that has John bar hinges. There's other things going on. You can see the colors in the world. The Pakistani probably are in the yellow here, the Indians are in the red here, but there's this blue faction and there's this pink faction, and certainly huge groups of light gray and dark gray. And those, again, can influence when I activate John bars in the hinges and create era buttons. They will probably make certain other cultures come to the forefront next. If you played this game enough and got into my mindset, I don't advise it, but if you do, you'll start to see that some of the stuff is making sense. This is not just, me taking random colors and tossing them at a map. I wanted this so that you can play it in GM mode, so that you can run time travel games and then collectively show the results of the players' actions to the players by having a referee have a master thing, and you can send it off to the players to play with, or you can take a screenshot of it and said, here's what you created. Now handle either the assassination of the British Empire leader Victoria, or assassinate the era's wildcard James Maxwell, or assassinate the British Empire General Michael Collins. So we got a lot of stuff going on here to do in a time travel scenario that I could do by 2-page role play, and have the players resolve it. And as the players resolve it, and in ref mode, it's going to show you all of the different buttons that you can just automatically click. Here, I would actually have to complete the action and create the John bar. Am I demonstrating instead of playing? I shouldn't do this. It's 5 steps, and I'm in a sad state, but I do have my fiddle. I did it luckily. Oh, thank you, boys. You came through for me. 6, 6, and 5. So we completed probably the 3s and the 2s, maybe even the 2s. I clicked it off too fast, so I can't see how good we were at that. But assassination is something that I know Romulus's amulet. Nero's fiddle were saying that they helped assassination. Ooh, Mortimer, what happened? You came back from your op. You got a little aged there. Or is that from 4? Now this is prosperity. That's interesting. I like prosperity. Changing the next era to prosperity is a useful thing. I should probably, if I'm playing the game correctly, do that in a much earlier era. I could go all the way back to the first era of this timeline and try to get one of the good blue things from happening. I'm going to go ahead and do this just because I said I would play for an hour, and I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm going to put this up with very little editing, so just you can watch me rift through the game, and I will hit the button for prosperity. Now I'm creating an era of prosperity that's following the British Empire. What happens? It gets worse. All right, so I have diminished my capacity to time travel that much more because I went from 2 harms to 4. Oh, that was a bad mistake on my part. So all I'm left with is my commander Mortimer, and he's aged. I have not lost either my 2 arsenal of relics, but I no longer have extra relics that I can recruit because I now have too many baneful civil strifes, and the Mammonites are gobbling up all the wealth. I have external forces. The alien trespassers have entered the timeline. I have the same still retroactive aggressions where the Luddites are present. And I also now had there's too much stagnation, so eventually all the high-tech guys have entered the cybernetic VR. Busted timeline in many ways. The next era of the Central Powers, this is World War I, it looks like, and it's pretty historically matched. It's it matches our understanding of the era quite well, and it's prosperity. But after that, and this is where it gets to the point where it's a little dicey. In fact, I know it's a little dicey because when I move around the map, you're going to start to see the fact that I have this critical error that keeps appearing. And this critical error tells me that I am not reaching the final timeline. And that's a bad thing. And let's see if we can get all the way to the end. It might have been an update that I didn't do. I thought I saw that was a critical error, and now I'm seeing there isn't. I could cheat and look at my code. You won't be able to do this later. And this overview, I haven't even written this overview on the post-colonial vacuum. And I think I still connect to the timeline. Oh, look at that. There's an agent action. Let's see if I can just sort of, from this oppression, from what's happening in the Pakistani, I'm going to capitalize on somebody else's time, manipulations of time, and activate that instead. See if I can reduce this down from 4 to maybe 3. And I'm going to go right to the past. And in the next 5 minutes, I'm just gonna break things. I'm going to go to the past. I'm going to find something, and I did. I eliminated. I'm back to that situation where all I have is the Magic Fae and the Luddites. I got rid of the alien invasion, and I got rid of the VR culture with all my techs. And so, and I've increased back to 3 and 4 here. You notice the guy I had in there, he was lost in time when the other harm came about. But Active Guardian, I'm going to go all the way to the front. This will probably take me a good 30 seconds of pushing, maybe a little bit longer. I'll riff a little bit. That's 47 minutes so far into the video. It's if I constantly am, and we go back to this is where I used the agent action for the next era. After the Pakistani, didn't I have I had the World War I? I think I had World War I, didn't I? Or was that a lot earlier? I changed something in World War I. And, well, that's an odd era. Stagnation. The United States of Europe. I got the proto-modern gods, whoever those people are, and the socialists. I don't really have the EU here. It's turned into something, morphed into something quite odd, and a stagnation here. Let's get rid of that and go before then. I'm going to go all the way back to the start of the timeline and take a look. By changing something there, maybe shatter the timeline, and by shattering the timeline I can reset it that way too. But that's sort of forcing a war, forcing Ragnarok. by shattering the timeline, winning the war of Ragnarok, winning the war of the timeline, and then I can rebirth the timeline. I can always restart from scratch, but that would erase Nero's fiddle and Romulus's amulet, and also, Mortimer's been with me for a long time now, as if time is relevant in any way. British Empire and the Boxers, oppressive era. Don't really care for that. Too many oppressive eras. You can also get other things to appear. Harms is what I just generically calling them. And we go from the British, I'm going back in time now. The Scots are fighting the Luddites. There's the Luddites. That's probably why this Luddite problem is in here. It's not necessarily that I have 3 or more eras that are baneful regressions. It's that I created an era that actually has the Luddites appear in it. That's one I definitely want to get rid of. It's unfortunate because it's a potent idea era, which tends to help stabilize the timeline. But if I go back far enough, this is just going to be wiped clean. And whether or not the Luddites disappear on the next change I make and get rid of this burning house, or whether or not it has accidentally 3 or more regressions in the timeline, that would be a regression that would show up here. Cultural shift, it's in black, it's not going to hurt me. Running out of time here, but not in a way. I don't know how long it'll take me to edit this. I got a couple little fixes I know I need to do. And I'm just going to hit the button really quick. French Empire. Looks like Napoleon's trying to take over the world. Coalition forces may have moved a little bit on that. And the Mongols versus the Kievians. That's probably close to historic accuracy here. Yeah, it's pretty historic based on some few inconsistencies. And we'll go back one more. And I know dead space on air. The Tang versus the East India Company. That's not too bad either. And it's an Enlightenment. This would be not a bad one to change it from. All right, we'll do it from here. Let's see if we can... should I recruit another agent before I do this? No, I'm going to go right to a John Barhinge. And 5, 5, and 6. And with Nero's fiddle, let's see. I think with Nero's fiddle, I finally get my act together here. Mortimer McDowell is now certified in murder. Okay, that's at least a positive plus from this. And the Op 40 in period 40, cold-blooded, ruthless killing, which is really nice. And I carried Nero's fiddle. I rolled 3 dice, the bonus of 1, and improved by 3 steps. So I almost got that thing single-handedly by myself. We were doing this one? Sure were. We're going to disbalance the rival Tang dynasty by triggering a rebellion in the military, but ensure it doesn't manifest in the East India Company. And a 5 and a 6, task complete. Look at that. And it's even a nice one. It's prosperity. Let's create an Enlightenment era, following by Prosperity era, because as time travelers have come in and manipulated the Tang so that they will be less of a threat to the East India Company. This will probably be in the 1700s, if historically. And after that, we went to the American colonies, and so we're a little bit... Oh, and look at that. We're now only down to one harm with our correction here. And that one harm will be the fact that we have 3 or more eras of baneful oppression, else the Illuminati cabal has formed and grew. Well, I'll leave it at that. That's a good place to stop with me. And Mortimer's still with me. I lost a Quentin when we had too many harms in the timeline. We're in prosperity with the American colonies. This is a good era. I probably would change the next era after it, since this one is blue. Or I would change something in this era so that the next era would not be something bad. And the next era after our American colonies is... Is what? Manifest Destiny. Oh, the United States is trying to conquer Mexico. Whew, okay. So, and that can be fun. All right. So, solve the Mexican problem with rampant inflation before it spreads to the Americans. But and so I could do the same things here. I could recruit agents from this era. I can tinker and try to pick up relics from this era. I can activate John Barhinges. This is external forces, which is a bad thing. It's in red. So if I go back in era And in the American colonies, wasn't it before this? We had the Mohawk battle along the Great Lakes. And so right here, if instead I were to activate the second John bar hinge, triple sixes, hey, my boys and I are starting to learn what we're doing here. But it still needs 2 more. Try it again. 1 6, that 1 6 dropped it by 1, and try it again. And task complete. It results in imperialism, but let's go for it. And so after my prosperity, I resulted in imperialism. Something's changing. If the American colonies went right into imperialism, we get the American Empire versus the anarchists. More evil has appeared in the timeline, but the again, you see now, it's affecting me, of course. I lost ability to get 1 more agent. And after all that, I think it's best if I restore the timeline, start over. Can I say I had fun for an hour? Well, you can hear it in my voice. I'd be fascinated by this. If you like to play a God type of Sims and want to see how the arc of history can be changed by time travel, it certainly is doing that. And so I'm back to the baseline of 5 and 6, and or I can put it in GM mode. And with GM mode, I could tinker to my heart's desire. I'm not playing the game. I'm simply just seeing the results of time being changed. You notice all of the buttons appear here. I could say, well, I want potent idea after potent idea. I'm going to fill my timeline with potent ideas and see what happens to the timeline. If I started in the Egyptian period with a potent idea and went to the next era with a potent idea, where do I end up? I end up in the God Emperors, still in the New Kingdom. Let's hit another potent idea coming out of that. And if I go from the New Kingdom, I'm just pushing mankind's potent ideas forward. As we move to the next potent idea, I go to the Mitanni in the Vedic states, and from here it's 13. I also this guy here, I'm in GM mode. It's just showing me different relics and an agent that can be recruited into your own game. It's telling you the John bar hinges, how many steps. Again, you could reduce them with 2-page role play or your own elaborate system. I would advise you not write an elaborate system when you could just take the 2-page role play when that's published probably next month. And potent idea after potent idea was doing that. I want to mix it up and put a prosperity in there. We'll throw up prosperity. The Mitanni in the Vedic states are going to live in kumbaya, comfort, and what does that beget? If the Mitanni in the Vedic states live in prosperity and the world is good and everyone is happy, what happens? Well, we get the Persians and the Armenians, and bust the timeline pretty well because those things suddenly appeared. We had 1 and 2. We picked up baneful regressions and oppressions. Yeah, if you can't give people too much love, because later on they'll go to hell. Let's just get an idea of what happened after the Persians and the Armenians started to play with their prosperity and their advanced potent ideas. Potent ideas can lead to crusades. Potent ideas can lead to H-bombs. And after that, with their prosperity, they're ending up in India, the Gupta, with a cultural shift. And after that, where do we head? And this is, again, referee mode. I don't have any actions that I can do as a player. All I'm doing is playing what if something happened after the next era, so that you can moderate your game and then have a method of cascading time. No buttons. I'm not playing it. There's some debate whether or not this thing should be called the John bar algorithm rather than the time twister alliteration. Some people hate that. Whether it's just called time travel module. This will be on the Space Gamer website for free download. And you can, if you grab it from my site, it's not going to be corrupted in any way. You'll need Excel to run it. I can't help you there, but it's you can then manipulate, and you can add potent idea after potent idea. I probably should have gone back in here and not left that stagnation in the middle of it. And let's see if this potent idea maybe puts us in a little bit better situation by the end of time. It did. It eliminated some problems, created others. Well, more later.